The Bush administration then became treaty allergic. And the bottom line, so I won't go through all of it, but basically that the 21st century was going to be different. There is no question that 9/11 was a brutal shock to the system and made us question a whole host of things and focused this country on the issue of fighting terrorism without looking, I think, at all the other aspects that create threats to the United States or opportunities for the United States. So for me, what I think is important is to have a president who thinks in 21st century terms. John McCain, interestingly enough, I know because he's chairman of the Republican Institute, so I've done some things with him, and he is dedicated to democracy promotion. He was very helpful in normalization with Vietnam. But in listening to him, and I listened to him very carefully during the debate, he is really very knowledgeable about yesterday. And what we need to do is to have an approach for today and tomorrow. And I think all of us have said how much we respect John McCain and his record. But if you look at things, he is, I think, in his response on Georgia, was, for instance, some Cold War language. I am probably as nervous about Russia as anybody, having been born in Czechoslovakia. But the bottom line is we need a different relationship with Russia. We have to figure out how not to go back to Cold War language, how to figure out where we can find some cooperation. We can't deal with nuclear nonproliferation issues without Russia or environment. And so we have to be smarter, I think, in terms of what kind of a relationship we have. So some of the language that I've heard from Senator McCain is basically more confrontational, more looking backwards. I think we had there was the interesting question as to whether you talk to people you don't like. One of the real problems, I think, with the Bush administration is dividing the world between us and them. Everybody was with us after 9/11. And then when all of a sudden we go into the axis of evil and decide that you can't talk to people, that doesn't get you anywhere. And so when in that debate, when McCain started talking about who you should talk to and not, and Obama is talking about you need to talk to people you don't like, that is a big difference. What was interesting, we did have a panel of former secretaries of state the week before, and we had actually done it earlier in Georgia. And what is interesting, all 5 of us that were there, 3 Republicans and 2 Democrats, so Colin Powell, Baker, and Kissinger, and Warren Christopher and I, all agreed that we should be talking to Iran without preconditions. It was a little bit of a shock to Senator McCain, I think. And what was interesting, actually, Henry Kissinger was sitting next to me, and when I understood him, he said that basically you should talk at Secretary of State level. So he was there talking on a very high level. I happen to believe you have to talk to people you don't like. I went to North Korea. I talked to Kim Jong-il. I talked to Milosevic in Belgrade. Believe me, talking is not necessarily exchanging pleasantries. That is the way leaders deliver tough messages. And McCain doesn't seem to have adopted that point of view, whereas I think Obama really understands that you can defend your position, be clear about the role of the United States, and you shouldn't be afraid to talk to people you don't like. I think Obama also understands the kind of multidimensional aspect to national security these days, that it's not just using the military, that there are a whole host of other tools that you need to think about, the economic aspects, the cultural, diplomatic abilities to have student exchanges, a whole host of issues that I see as integrated in terms of looking to the future. And what I wish were possible is for all of us to express our respect for Senator McCain, but basically, for me, he's yesterday. He is yesterday. And we really have a 21st century issues that are huge, very complicated. I could spend all lunch here making you quite ill over I barely touched on all the problems. And so it's going to take an ability to multitask. It's very important. The capability to deal with the unexpected. And this idea that you really can think big. And I have to say this is, Jan mentioned, I was a Hillary supporter. And I think she's fantastic. I never had anything, nor had anything negative to say about Obama, because I thought he was terrific. I just was for Hillary for a number of different reasons. But I sat with Hillary all through the convention, and she said, go out there and work for Barack Obama, because we need a new look and a Democratic president. And so I think that I don't want to say negative things about Senator McCain. I think we have to be very careful here. We are in a very, very difficult time. But I just feel so strongly on my basis of their analysis of their national security views, we have to have a new approach. And at the Democratic Convention, when we had 500 visitors from abroad, when they saw the excitement over democracy working in America and what it is that Barack Obama would bring to the table, I think it was palpable in terms of its excitement. So thank you for asking.
As you explained earlier, the upcoming election is like one of our largest, and you explained that the president's going to have a heavy burden, the next president. What is your main piece of advice that you could give the next president, in your case, Obama, dealing with all the things going on around here?
Yep. Well, you see, I've got this book. It's called Memo to the President-elect. And I did inscribe it to Obama, and I wrote in it with the audacity to hope that you will find this book useful. But I think the main thing that I would advise is to set the priorities carefully. There are, you know, when the Clinton administration was in office, and I was specifically asked about later what we did wrong, it was a little bit, you know, like a job interview where somebody asks you what your faults are and you say, I worked too hard. I think that what we did wrong actually was have too many priorities. And so the question is how to set the priorities in a way that make them genuinely priorities, so that you systematically decide what has to be done in what order. I happen to believe that I would do away with the 100-day business, because that was something that worked in a different era. And it's going to take more than 100 days to undo 8 years of what's just been happening. So I think that one has to set expectations. I think the advice I would give, first of all, that whatever he thinks is in his inbox right now, there will be something else on top of it. That to really be able to figure out a process that allows you to deal with the unexpected. And then I would set whatever the short-term issue is. I do think that getting out of Iraq is getting that process underway. I think more and more dealing with the Pakistan-Afghanistan issue. And then try to figure out what to put into place that it's actually a medium time priority, and then a longer one, because you have to start the process. But I also, and this is the really, really hard part, the expectations for the next president are huge, because things are a mess. I mean, they are, you know, none of us are making it up. I have never seen a mess like this. It was a mess before 2 weeks ago. Now it's a bigger mess. And the financial crisis has international implications. But think about the priorities this way. If you set 3 immediate priorities and you accomplish 2, you've done 2/3 of what you were supposed to do. If you set 10 priorities and you accomplish 4, even though you've done double, you've done less than half of what you said you would do. And so I would have President Obama be very straight with the American people. You've got to tell the truth and assume that we are all relatively intelligent and that we can deal with problems and that we are capable of understanding that this is a hard time. So I would have him really lay it out and then say, this is kind of how I'm going to go about it.